Havana, the capital of Cuba, on the north coast facing the Gulf of Mexico, is today one of the most progressive cities of the Western Hemisphere. A bird's eye view of the city reveals the many landmarks of its progress and growth. Here we see the imposing chimneys of the Talla Piedra electric plant, which catch the eye for miles. The new electric plant at Regla is seen across the harbor. We have here the monument to Jose Marti at the Plaza de la República, erected to commemorate the 50th anniversary of the Republic and surrounded by other national buildings. The heavy traffic of the city is reflected on Rancho Boyeros Avenue. This constellation at the Rancho Boyeros Airport is a symbol of the country's progress in air travel. Old Carlos III Street is now a spacious modern avenue. The Palace of Fine Arts, where a sculpture at the entrance proclaims the high standard of the plastic arts in Cuba. One of Havana's maternity hospitals. The baby population in Cuba is growing rapidly. A new waterworks system with a 78-inch pipeline is being constructed in the southern basin of Havana province to meet the increasing water consumption of the greater Havana area. The University of Havana, one of the most advanced in the Americas, proud of its cultural traditions. The large Masonic temple, recently erected by Cuban Masonic bodies. The new electromechanics building at Belen College. The functional style of the Miramar Yacht Club distinguishes its architecture from that of other aristocratic clubs on this seafront. An up-to-date movie house in the Vedado suburb. Industrial home for the blind, founded by the Lions Club of Havana. The new American Embassy building on the famous Malecon of Havana. Skyscrapers as high as 35 stories have been built throughout the city during the last few years. Most of them are residential, but some also furnish space for offices and stores. In 1948, the value of new construction throughout the island amounted to 43 million pesos. In 1954, it exceeded 70 million pesos. Cuba is a sport-loving country. At the beautiful Marianao racetrack, racing fans follow enthusiastically the sport of kings. Boxing is most popular. Cuban boxers have beaten some of the best boxers in the world. Baseball, however, is the favorite national sport in Cuba. At the new Cerro Stadium, crowds up to 36,000 fans gather to cheer the Sugar Kings, Havana, and Almendares teams, as well as many amateur players. Now, let us have a look at the industrial life of the country. Cuban tobacco is recognized everywhere as the best in the world. In this factory, the selected leaf of Vuelta Bajo is converted into cigarettes. Present consumption totals around 600 million packages annually. Coffee growing is one of Cuba's main industries. Output today meets the domestic requirements, and after many years, Cuba again has coffee available for export. In 1954, Cuba imported 120 million feet of lumber. Pre-mixed concrete production started in 1947. Reinforced concrete is almost completely used in construction, replacing the steel girder type of former years. Concrete plays an important part in the construction of highways and streets. The shoe industry has developed on a big scale. In 1948, it turned out 8 million pairs of shoes. In 1954, the output was 14 million pairs. The fabrication of duraluminum for industrial purposes is a new venture in Cuba. Carlos Finlay laid the foundation stone of modern Cuban medical science. There are over 180 pharmaceutical laboratories in the country. The manufacture of soft drinks has grown tremendously. In Cuba, there are 58 factories engaged in the manufacture of jerked beef, sausages, and canned meats. Paper and newsprint consumption is very high in Cuba. This is a large mill. A rubber tire factory. Tire consumption has doubled in the past 6 years. 1/3 of the demand is produced in the island. Two-thirds of the wheat flour consumed in Cuba is milled at this plant in Regla. Pottery and ceramics industries flourish in the interior of the island, with principal centers in Calabasas, Trinidad, Camagüey, and Santiago de Cuba. A textile factory. The young and vigorous textile industry can compare with the best in Latin America. The brewery industry has increased considerably, especially in the last 10-year cycle of industrial and economic development, and national breweries have constructed new plants to meet the growing demand for beer. In 1954, production exceeded 120 million liters. Commercial activities in Havana have kept pace with the industrial development. At up-to-date and comfortable stores, many of them air-conditioned, pretty girls serve the customers who may buy all kinds of goods, ranging from aluminum container to an exclusive dress designed by Christian Dior. The beautiful swimming pool at the famous Havana Hotel. Holiday makers, most of them tourists, charmed by the attractions of Cuba, take a dip in the pool and bask in the sun. Contemporary world influence is reflected in Cuban architecture. Novedado, a residential section built on what was once the Havana forest, shows the trend of tropical architecture.